This is a story about letting go and how it is important in this digital era. Holding grudges and worrying about flimsy things will just weigh you down the more. Before we go into this ancient story and how it can change your life, please subscribe, like, and share this video. Now let's dive right in. Let me tell you a story. A story about a young man named Taro who lived in a small village at the edge of a vast forest. Taro was like many of us, ambitious, hardworking, and full of dreams. But Taro had one flaw that held him back. He couldn't let go. You see, Taro had a treasure, a beautiful ancient vase that had been in his family for generations. It was no ordinary vase. Its surface was adorned with intricate patterns of gold and jade, and it shimmered in the sunlight like it held the secrets of the universe. To Taro, the vase was more than just an object. It was his pride, his identity, his proof that he came from something valuable. Every day, he would polish it until it gleamed, and every night he would place it carefully on a pedestal by his bed, where he could see it as he fell asleep. But Taro's love for the vase was not pure. It was not the kind of love that brings joy. It was the kind of love that brings fear. Fear of losing it, fear of it breaking, fear that without it, he would be nothing. Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever held on to something so tightly that it began to feel like it owned you instead of the other way around? Maybe it's a possession, like Taro's vase, or maybe it's a relationship, a job, or even an idea of who you think you're supposed to be. Think about it for a moment. What is it that you're holding on to so tightly that it's holding you back? One day, Taro heard that a great Zen master had come to the village. The master was known far and wide for his wisdom, and people said he had the power to change lives with just a few words. Taro, desperate to rid himself of the constant fear that haunted him, decided to visit the master. He thought, perhaps this wise man can teach me how to protect my vase, how to keep it safe forever. When Taro arrived at the master's hut, he found the old man sitting by a river, watching the water flow. The master's eyes were calm, his presence serene, as if he were one with the world around him. Taro bowed deeply and said, "Master, I am tormented by fear. I have this vase, my most precious possession, but I cannot enjoy it because I am always afraid of losing it. What should I do?" The master looked at Taro for a long moment, his gaze gentle but piercing, as if he could see straight into Taro's soul. Then he smiled and said, "Come with me." The master led Taro deep into the forest, where the trees grew tall and the air was thick with the scent of pine. They walked in silence, the only sound the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. Finally, they came to the edge of a cliff. Below, the river roared, its waters crashing against the rocks. The master turned to Taro and said, "Show me your vase." Taro hesitated, clutching the vase tightly to his chest. "Why?" he asked, his voice trembling. The master simply smiled and said, "Trust me." Reluctantly, Taro handed over the vase. The master held it up, turning it in his hands, admiring its beauty. Then, without warning, he threw it over the edge of the cliff. Taro screamed, "No!" and lunged forward, but it was too late. The vase shattered on the rocks below, the sound echoing through the valley like a thunderclap. Taro fell to his knees, his heart pounding, his breath coming in short gasps. He felt as though a part of him had been destroyed. He looked up at the master, tears streaming down his face, and cried, "Why did you do that? How could you destroy something so precious to me?" The master knelt beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. His voice was soft but firm as he said, "Because you were not holding the vase was holding you." Let me pause here for a moment. Think about what the master said. The vase was holding you. What does that mean? How often do we let the things we own or the things we desire control us? How often do we let our fear of losing something keep us from truly living? Taro didn't understand it at first. He was angry, heartbroken, and confused. He shouted at the master, "You don't understand. That vase was everything to me. It was my family's legacy, my pride, my proof that I mattered." The master simply smiled and said, "And now that it is gone, who are you?" Taro froze. The question hit him like a bolt of lightning. Who was he without the vase? He had spent so much of his life defining himself by it, clinging to it, that he had never stopped to ask himself that question. The master stood and began to walk away, leaving Taro alone by the cliff. But before he disappeared into the forest, he turned and said, "When you're ready to answer that question, you will find peace." Taro sat by the cliff for hours, staring at the shattered pieces of the vase far below. At first, all he felt was pain, but as the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and gold, something shifted inside him. He realized that the vase was gone, and yet, he was still here. The world had not ended. The sun still set, the river still flowed, and his heart still beat. For the first time in his life, Taro felt a strange sense of freedom. The fear that had once consumed him was gone. The constant worry, the endless anxiety, it had vanished like a storm that had finally passed. Taro began to see the world differently. He noticed the beauty of the sunrise, the sound of the wind in the trees, the laughter of children playing in the village square. He realized that his worth was not tied to the vase or any other possession. It was tied to the person he was, the life he lived, and the love he shared with others. Years later, Taro became a wise and respected elder in the village. People would come to him for advice, and he would often tell them the story of the vase. He would say, "The moment I let go of what I thought I couldn't live without, I discovered the freedom to truly live." And so, I ask you again, what is your vase? What are you afraid to let go of? Is it a possession, a relationship, a dream that no longer serves you? Or maybe it's an idea of who you think you're supposed to be. Take a moment to reflect on this. And while you do, if you're finding value in this story, take a second to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Your support helps us continue sharing these stories of wisdom and growth. Remember, the tighter you hold on, the more it controls you. But when you let go, you set yourself free. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe, share, and like this video. Until next time, may you find peace, freedom, and the strength to let go.